Going. So we're live. Okay. Going. So
Well,
we're
nobody's
live.
in the meeting yet. These are sent to this group chat. Come on, people. Zero views average time. Okay. Hi. Welcome. Hi. Hi. Hi, Yusuf. Come on. Come on. Hi. How are you guys doing? If you're excited to be here, you can give me a like, give me a love. Let me just know if you're excited to hear from the scholars. Nice, nice, nice. And if you're new here, welcome to the scholarship room where we hold meetings with scholars and they share how they can help you guys, get shortlisted for that scholarship and win that scholarship. We are 45 now. Come on, we can reach 100. Good evening. Hi, Musa. Are you guys excited for this evening? What do you hope to hear from the scholars? Do you have any questions? You can drop it down. Are you excited? Let me see. If you're excited, you can just say yes. Nice. Great, great, great. And to those shortlisted, congratulations. You made it to the final stage. PTDF is one of the easiest scholarships, honestly. So if you get it, congratulations. You already made it to the next stage. So congratulations on getting to the final stage. A lot of questions. That's nice. Come on, we're 69 here. If you need to share it with your friends, do so, do so. Nine and counting. Tell your friends, don't let them miss out on this. You might hear a question and it might be the same question that you hear during the interview. We are 80, we're 88. Come on, more people. Tell your friends. We have scholars from the UK, from Germany, from France, both masters and PhD. Do we need to start asking questions? Not yet. You can chill to when we have the scholars and then you can ask your questions. But make sure you have noted them down. So if you're new here, welcome to the scholarship room again. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see or you can join more lives like this. So we're 87, come on. Let's make it 100. You can post it on your status too so that other people just like you can join. Okay, 93 now. 7 more people to go and we can start. I Come on, 7 more people, share to your friends. This is the final stage. You need to get it. You need to win it. You win it, and PTDF is basically sponsoring your whole masters. Oh, Chidima, someone is telling you hi. You have a fan. Okay, we are 100. Nice. Wonderful. Oh, you guys have fun, fans rather. Saying hi, Chidima, hi, Emmanuel. Okay, guys. So once again, welcome to the scholarship room. So thank you for taking your time to join. And if you have been shortlisted for PTDF, big congratulations again. This is the final stage. And after this, you can get the scholarship and start your master's this year. So I am Esther, and I run the scholarship room where we help people navigate scholarship opportunities and help them position themselves for this, for whatever scholarship. Now, before we start, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so. Turn on your notifications so that you don't miss future sessions like this. Also, take your notes, drop questions in the chat, and we'll address them. So now, getting shortlisted is one thing, but passing the interview is one of the major things. And we've brought scholars here to actually tell you how you can prepare for the interview, what to expect, and what to do, how to structure your answers, because you're going to be asked different questions, but there are certain ways that this panelist want to hear your answer. So you can expect what the interview is like. They will tell you the experience, the kind of questions, what the panel was actually looking for, and the mistakes that you should avoid. Practical section. Make sure you have your notes beside you to take. Let's get into it. So our speakers, we have 5 speakers here. We have Mr. Emmanuel, who is currently doing an MSc in UK at Imperial University. We also have Mr. Mohammed, who is a PhD student in Germany. So PhD guys, we have you covered. And we also have Chidima, that is currently studying in France. She's doing public health. So if you know you're not from engineering or geosciences, you should really listen when she's talking. And we also have Chiedoze, who is a Germany scholar, who will be telling you what you need to. In fact, well, you need to listen very well to Mr. Chiedoze. That's just a hint. And we also have one other scholar that will be joining us later, which is our UK PhD scholar. So guys, let's, oh, is Mr. Issa around? Okay. So Mr. Issa is a UK PhD scholar that will be joining us in some minutes. So we are going to be starting with the GFM routes. And we're going to be starting with, no one is studying in Malaysia. People are studying in Malaysia. So when it comes to the interview, it's not really about the country. It's more about, can you answer what they're asking you? So listen up. All right. So we're going to be starting with the Germany, France, Malaysia, and we'll be starting with Mr. Chiedoze, who is currently studying in, who is a former MSc scholar from 2022, did mechanical engineering in Germany. So Mr. Chiedoze, please can you tell us a hi?
Hello, guys. Good to be here, and congratulations on being shortlisted for the PTDF interview. And I'm very excited to get your questions and to communicate my ideas,
Oh,
practical ideas, to everyone.
great, 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 great. So Chiedoze, can you tell us how the interview was for you? Like, how did it go? Just tell us your experience. Like, how did you prepare to that particular interview day?
Okay, yes. Thank you, Esther, for the question. So I would say we all know we have all gotten to this point in our lives. So we know what it means to prepare for an interview. A lot of us have gone through the hacks of different interviews at different stages of our lives. But there's no idea set on stone. It's subjective to different people, but I can only share my experiences with you. So I would say what really helped me during my interview was the fact I think I was more relaxed.
Mm,
Yes, I was more relaxed in my interview. Before when I got shortlisted, between when I got shortlisted and when I was going for my interview, I would say I credited it to me being relaxed. So I prepared, but I did not over prepare in the real sense of it, right? I actually traveled I took a trip to my interview was in Abuja. I took a trip from, of course, at that time I was in Owerri. I took a trip from Owerri to Abuja for my interview. And when I got to the PTDF quarters, the PTDF headquarters, just getting there, I saw a lot of people. Then I knew that this is a competition, not a competition, but in an academic, competition. Um, so I sat down, I waited for my turn. Um, So when I got into the room, when it was my turn, I got into the room. But like I said, I was very relaxed. I prepared, I had, my SOP at my beck and call. I knew what I, wanted to say. But when I got into the hall, man, it's a different world altogether. It seems that the things I was actually preparing for, the things I actually had in mind, it just kept my mind for some reason. So at that point, I was like, okay, what's going on? So when I entered the hall, I was directed to a panel. And fortunately or unfortunately for me, it's a panel with women. And when only women interview you in a panel, you know what that means. Yeah, so I was really asked a lot of questions, thorough questions. And so I actually did a very good preparation with my SOP, but there are some basic things I did not pay attention to. So, for example, my SOP was about corrosion, right?
mm,
Cathodic protection. So I was just looking at the big words and all of the equations and all of the practical stuff that I did, but I didn't pay attention to the fact that okay, I could be asked what is corrosion or what is rust, right? So when I sat down there, one of the ladies, the PTDF panelists, she asked me, "What is rust?" Ah, so immediately she asked me what is rust. At first, I knew the answer, but I was not expecting that you asked me what is rust. What is corrosion, all of those things. Yeah, and immediately I just zoned out. She was like, "Oh, you are writing about corrosion, but you don't know what rust is." Then I now said something, right? But she was expecting a more technical answer. But the thing was, what helped me was, before the end of the interview, I actually got an answer to that. You know, it has to do with oxidation reaction and all of those stuff. So I actually got an answer to that, and I answered it. My interview was physical, and it was roughly 30 to 45 minutes. 30 to 45 minutes.
you
Yeah.
say 45 minutes.
Yes, 30 to 45 minutes. 30 to 45 minutes. Yeah. Because yeah, because they were like I said, it's on a team of women, so they asked me a lot of questions. So they really asked me many questions with my SOP. They were with my SOP in my hands. They needed to know my motivation for applying to PTDF, why I want to take on a master's program, and why I applied to Germany and that particular school. So they needed to know those details, and it was what sharing, those details with them. But I had prepared for them, right, like I said. And one thing that helped me was I was a bit relaxed. I think that period, for some reasons, I was just relaxed because of some events, personal events that happened before then. So I was a bit relaxed in my interview. I was not under pressure, So I think that helped me structure my thought, because it's one thing to have a lot of things to say, it's another thing to structure your thoughts. You have to say things in the right way, and when they ask you. Yeah.
Oh, wait, 13 to 45. There's something that someone sent me, and people were talking about their interviews, and then they were like, some people were saying 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So, and I'm hearing 30 to 45 minutes.
Yeah, like I said, like I said, it was a team of women, so they asked me a lot of questions. I think if I won't say it's a rule. I don't want to say now if it's so long, if it's longer than 10 minutes, probably they are considering you. I don't want to say that, but yet I was saying some things that were compelling. But like, I think that's the much I can remember. Either 30 minutes or so, but it took some time. I would say
Wow,
that.
wow,
But
nice.
that was not, obviously, that was not the experiences of like other people too. Some people
Yeah,
were very fast. Me, they needed to know a lot of
wow. It's true.
things about.
I wanted to ask, the part of as you were speaking, you spoke about some of the questions. So can we hear more about the type of questions you were asked?
Okay, so when I sat down, they asked me, okay, the first question was what was your motivation? What is your motivation for applying to PTDF?
Hmm.
So it's a very tricky question. You don't know how to. So I just said, there are some questions you just say without even. I just said everything that I know at that point. While the facts, and it's good to make sense on time, right? So I said, okay, I need this, scholarship to sponsor my master's program in this area. There was a main point, cathodic protection, corrosion. So that
Hmm.
was what was my main area, and I needed that so that I could come back to Nigeria to take up a research position at so and so institutes. Do you understand? So I made sure that's my own way, right? I made sure that that was in the first few sentences
Hmm.
as I started my interview. So rather, as I was asked that question, so I made sure that those were the first few words that came out of my mouth. So any other thing, we are just follow-up questions with my SOP.
Hmm. Okay. So then you were not asked like the technical questions of what is Rust and
Yes, yes, yeah, it was not technical, but it was very basic, right? Because I knew the technical parts very well. I knew like in depth, but they were the basics that
yeah.
they just wanted to see. Instead of looking at maybe cathodic protection, corrosion here, corrosion there, they asked me a very simple question: what is rust? And at that point, yeah, right? At that point, it just skipped my head because I didn't even prepare for that. The last time I learned about Rust was in secondary school. So I didn't really did get, so I didn't expect that question. But it was a very basic question. Do you understand? A very basic and important question. So in as much as we are preparing for the actual thing, the technical thing, you should also um, pay attention to the basics. They can ask you the basics. And also very importantly, I think, though I wasn't asked this, but I think you should also um, take into account the core values of PTDF, the mission statements, the vision of PTDF. Have that handy so that in case you are being asked that as your first question, you'll be in the best place to answer.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Interesting. So, what do you think like the panel was looking for? Like, I know your answer should be kind of structured, but if they ask you like a question that you didn't envision, how do you think? Is there like a particular method that you always, or something that was always in your answer when speaking?
So I knew that I would have a main theme in my answer. I knew that I would have to show that I will come back, back home, to apply those skills and like my education I've gotten abroad to the development of the oil and gas industry in Nigeria through research areas or articles, etc. So I also knew that I would add like my other voluntary activities, things I do on the side, and yes, and my academic qualifications too. So these are the things I knew that should be included in my in my statements. So
Makes a lot
I
of
made sure to include all of those things. Yeah.
nice.
But
Okay,
but but, there, but like I
hmm,
said, there is no pattern to this.
yeah,
Most of us have been preparing for different kinds of interview. This is no different. You just
true.
have to be confident, but make sure that you don't just say, because I've spoken to a few people outside like this meeting. People have a very great, they have great areas they want to look at, but remember to align to what to the mission and vision statement of PTDF.
Okay, nice,
Yeah.
nice. Thank you so much. So, Chirude, before you go, if you just help us answer these questions in the comment. The questions
Okay.
they ask, is it just your first choice university and course?
So they don't usually ask that to the best of my knowledge, but I think you should just, yes, primarily your first choice university and
Hmm,
and course, yes.
ni- nice,
Yeah,
nice.
you should know where you're going to do it.
And
And what?
in terms of professional memberships, did you have like, is it really needed for the interview? Does it?
This is I won't say it's an academic competition. Like there are a lot of people. So you need to put your best foot forward, right?
Yeah.
If you have an academic and a professional membership, it's going to give you an advantage.
Hmm.
So, the competition is really high, but you have to make sure that all the required documents are in place, right? So one person might have 85%, another person will have 95%. 85 and 95 is still A, but they will obviously go for the person with the 95%. So it's a competition. So you make sure that even though professional membership is not so is required, but is not necessary, you actually need to provide, and to get a professional membership, I don't think it's difficult, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Thank you so much, Chidozie. Would come back to you later, but
Yeah.
let's give you some time to rest now. So let's go to our PhD people. So they are not like, oh, it's just masters. Then we would go to Chidinma for France. So, Mr. Mohammed, can you hear me? Oh, nice.
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. So, everyone, we have Mohammed in the house who is doing his PhD in Germany. So, PhD guys, this is your time. So, Mohammed, I just wanted if you can just tell us your experience, like unlike masters where you have to do statement of purpose, PhD is more of like research proposal. So how is it? How is the interview like?
Okay, first of all, I would like to say a very big congratulations to all the people that have been invited for the interview, and I wish them all the best. So, I believe it's a very big opportunity that they are ready to take on, and hopefully we would come to hear good news from them. So, first of all, I would say that the difference basically is from the proposal, since for the master students, the focus is on SOP. However, I would like to start like in a story format, starting from like how I got to the place and how I got to like loosen up, not to feel under pressure before the interview, and how the interview went. So at the beginning, when I got to the place, I was welcomed by the security men, and then they directed me to the place where I I think I wrote my name or something like that, and then they directed me to a place where I sat down. And to be honest, with the number of people I saw there, I was like, come on, will this be possible? And fortunately, the person sitting like beside me
Yeah.
was a kind of a person that is like easy to make a friend. I don't really remember his name at the moment, but then I don't know what happened. We just say hi, and then before you know it, we started talking. And then
Wow.
me having that little conversation with that guy just chilled everything down for me. And that was how I was able to like move into the interview room where I was sitting in front of the panel, like feeling very, very calm and ready to answer their questions. And now I'm talking about my first experience because I was at the interview once and I wasn't selected, and then the
Wow.
second time I got selected. So for the first time, I went there feeling so calm and ready to present my idea. And the first thing that like gave me a very big problem was that I couldn't even remember the title of my proposal,
Ah.
to be honest. So I would say that I just give them when they asked me about the title. Well, it all started with them checking my documents and all, which was like I think the same for everybody. And after that, we went into the conversation where they ask you questions about your proposal.
Yeah.
And the first question they asked me was like, "What's the title?" Even though they're holding the paper with them, they were like, "What's the title?" I know the title, but like in a way, it just escaped my mind. So
Yeah.
all I had to do was like try to put the idea in my head and just mention it as if it were the proposal. So they didn't complain that I wasn't really giving them the actual title, but they were like, okay, then they will just move into the other thing. So what they did next was they asked me to like briefly tell them about the whole idea of my PhD, and then which I did. And after giving them that, they started asking questions. So what I can clearly remember is that uh, most of their questions came from my methodology.
Ooh.
So if I clearly remember, only one of the questions was about, I would say, the literature review indirectly. And that question was like how did I now know that this particular project I'm about to embark on is worth doing? So I had to tell them that okay, this is what happened. I conducted a literature review, even though the proposal didn't allow me to put everything I have read in the literature, but I was able to put the main papers that were actually showing the gap that I was trying to cover. So indirectly, they were asking if I actually did a literature review or not, which I was able to answer, I believe. And then after that, they started asking questions about the methodology. And to be honest, at some point, I would feel like, okay, I'm definitely going to be selected. At some point, when they ask some questions, I would feel like, come on, I'm messing up. So just like Chidozie, my first interview was a little bit long, and that actually gave me hope that I was going to be selected. But in the end, I was not.
Wow.
So it took about, I think, 20 minutes or 25 minutes. They were actually interested in the idea, but I think I didn't really convince them. So after that, I went out thinking I was going to be selected, to be honest. Even though I know I missed some of the points I was supposed to like talk about, but then I was sure some of the things that they asked me, I gave them the right answers. And that gave me some sort of confidence that definitely I will be selected. But in the end, I was not. So the following year, I applied again and I was called for the interview. So the same idea that I had, I did not change it. So all I did was, based on my conversations with them, I upgraded my proposal and applied for the scholarship. And that was how I was invited and I was called for the interview. So for that second interview, it was much, much easier for me because it was not the first time. So it was more like me coming in to just have a like conversation with someone I've already been speaking to like for a very long time. So for that, when I got to the panel, it was the same like the previous year. They checked my papers, and we have a little bit of like conversations, and they were like, were you here last year?
Hmm.
So I said yes. And in fact, I pointed to one of them and said he was one of the members of the panel, and he
What?
was. Yes. So
Yes.
I recalled his face.
Wow.
Yeah. So I said, I don't remember seeing all of them, but this particular person was on the panel last year when I was presenting. So so he was like, "Oh, so we failed you," and we had a joke. He was like, "We failed you." I was like, "No, it was my fault. Maybe I didn't convince you people." So after that, they started asking questions just like they did. I still noticed that the focus was more on my methodology because the science is mostly, they could actually see that the science is in the methodology. So they would want to see that, do you really have something science to present to them? Not just that the idea is looking this big, but then is it feasible? Because that methodology is what is going to show that you have done your, for instance, you have done your literature review, you have found the gap, but is it feasible for you to actually be able to run that research and be able to to cover that gap? So I believe that was why they were trying to focus more on the methodology. The methodology, most of the questions were about that. And the thing I can remember that was not methodology related was the technology. So they were like, why not AI?
Hmm.
Because I'm in computing. So they were like, why not AI? Because my focus is on immersive technologies, that's like virtual reality, augmented reality, and
Hmm.
mixed reality. So they were like, why not AI? I was like, okay, there is AI in what I'm doing, but to be honest, because everyone is going for AI, I don't want to go for AI. I want to go for something uh, which doesn't have so much crowd, but is similarly as impactful as AI, as I believe. So, and when they asked, they were when I said that, they were like, but they feel like AI. They were trying to convince me themselves. So I was like, okay, let me tell you how AI is also part of what I'm doing. So in immersive technologies, there is a lot of usage of computer vision, which is part of part of AI. So
Hmm.
I was able to tell them, okay, for instance, in augmented reality, we use cameras from either headsets, head-mounted devices, or mobile gadgets to scan something or the physical space, and then it's able to identify that it's a floor, and then augment a physical object on that, and then through that we change the ideas into learning stuff, training applications, and the rest. So they were like, okay, then we see the connection between AI and what you're doing. And then they were like, okay, now that I'm going into something that is not really common, how can I now be able to transfer it back home? And I was like, okay, uh, even where I'm going, it's not like it has been like the technology has been adopted so well, but
Yeah.
I can say they have started working on it long ago. But even at this time, the technology is still evolving. So I want to be one of those first people from
Hmm.
Nigeria that will go out, learn about it, and then transfer the knowledge back home. And one of the things I told them about me transferring the knowledge back home is that I intend to come back home, set up my own lab where I'm going to be working solely about training applications that has to do with
Wow.
immersive technologies. And they were like, okay, okay. And then I remember I mentioned, I don't remember which case study exactly, but I mentioned one case study that was showing how that technology was being used in the oil and gas industry. And I even
Hmm.
quoted what one of the staff from DPR, whom I have known since I was in secondary school, told me. So that
Hmm.
person was one of the people that motivated me to study chemical engineering, even though I didn't. I went for computer science. But there was a time I was having conversation with him about safety, and then I was telling him about the technology I was learning. So that person was telling me that if I can be able to align that technology to safety, he thinks I might be selected. So I did that, went for the first interview, I was not selected. He felt disappointed too when I told him. But then when I went back the second time, I got it. So now what I'm trying to point at is no matter what the technology, just try to connect it to oil and gas, just like the previous speaker said. that make sure that whatever you're doing is related to oil and gas. Even
Wow.
though after getting selected, you can tweak it a little bit. It has to be something that is going to impact the oil and gas industry. But then your idea from the proposal or from the interview might not be what you're going to work on when you start your PhD.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I would like to stay here if other people have questions, and then I would be able to answer maybe in subsequent
Yeah.
appearances.
Yeah. So just before you go, there's one particular question and it has to do with publications. So
Okay.
do you need publications rather for PhD?
Well, it all depends. Like in my first interview, I was asked for publication and professional certificates, but in the second, I was not. I was not asked about any of that. So, but it's always good to have them so that when you're asked, then you present them. If they're not requested, then you just keep them with you. I think that's the best thing to do, to be honest. Sometimes they will give you the list of items they want you to come with, and in most cases, those are the things they will ask for. But then the panel might just decide to say, okay, how about we try to find out? Because you might say things that will trigger them to say, okay, maybe this person should have this experience. For instance, you're talking about uh, maybe the literature review, finding the gaps and all, and they'll be like, is it that you have research experience already? If yes, have you published? Then they might want to be like, okay, do you have any? So, but then if you don't have any and you get called for the interview, I don't think it's anything bad. Just go. And if they ask you whether you have them or not, tell them the truth. If you don't have any, say you don't. That's just it.
Yes, I agree with you. Yes.
Well, they can't
Yeah.
ask you to present those publications, or would they? Can they?
They can actually ask you, because if you have any publication, then print it and go with it. If, for instance, you have presented in a conference, you can print the conference certificate and then go with it. But best print the paper as well, like the publication. So if they ask for it, just hand it over. If they don't, then you keep it with you. So for instance, in my second interview, I went with with certificates, but because they didn't ask for them, I just held them to myself.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't want to overdo. I didn't want to overdo. And
Yeah.
sometimes they will tease you, like based on your grades. They'll be like, "Oh, okay, you have this grade. Let's see what you have." Things like that. I think it happened to me, especially
Yeah.
in the second one. They were looking at my grades and oh, okay, then okay, let's see what you can present. And luckily enough, the second time was a success.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and
I have
And
a
then
I'm
after
question.
supposed
all the presentation, then just leave the rest to God.
I have a question. Sorry, can I ask?
Yeah. Yes, you
Yes.
can.
Um, you spoke about methodology, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if the proposal is a follow-up from a master's thesis, for example,
Yeah.
can one use the methodology in the master's thesis as an extension
Okay,
for answering
this is a
the
very
question?
good question. So what I would say is you can use that methodology, but then you have to upgrade the methodology to a PhD level,
Yes.
because for masters, definitely there will be a lot of similarities. All you need to do is just make it a little bit more advanced.
Okay.
Yeah. So and then you can actually look into other people's PhD in that same area, and then look at how the methodology looks like. Then form like a summarized version of that and compare it to that of your masters.
Okay.
I don't know if you get what I'm trying to pass here.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so I think that will be a better way to approach it, instead of just taking directly from the masters and just adding a few things. Pick up that from masters, look into another PhD. I'm very sure you'll find that online. Look into another PhD in that field, then compare what needs to be improved to make it look like a PhD methodology. And I think that will solve the problem for you.
Yeah. And in responding to questions, right, in the proposal,
Yeah.
do one have to be scientific? right? Saying all of the equations, all of the
Okay, I would not say that you have to say the equations. Definitely, in my own case, I did not need any equation. Rather, I need a model. In fact, not like an AI model. When I say model here, I mean a theoretical model.
yes.
But then you have to know what that model is all about. If you have an equation, you should also be able to say that, okay, there is this equation that can do this in my proposal. You don't need to memorize that, for instance. So, but then you have to be scientific, to be honest. You have to show that you have that scientific groundings to be able to go into a PhD. So, but it's not going to be like they're going to treat you like you have already gotten your PhD. But show some level of scientific groundings, and I think that will be enough. Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. That's that's massive. And but for PhD, do they like ask for like CV? I know they don't ask for
Yeah, yeah,
that.
you have to present a CV together with
Oh,
the documents. Yeah, your CV will be there, proposal will be there, and then certificates.
Okay,
wow.
but they didn't ask for CV in the application.
Okay, if they don't, then that means it's not going to be part of the documents.
But
But I
but it's
think
good to have it handy.
I think it should be good for you to have it. But I think during our time, CV was one of the things that was requested, and then I remember clearly that I printed one and went with it.
Hmm.
Yeah, but if
Can I
it is not
chime in
part
here?
of the list, then I don't think it's needed.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
someone
can.
someone said something on the comments, right?
Okay.
Someone said my research focuses on the integration of renewable energy in the oil and gas sector. And the person also said, I am having difficulty connecting this to the oil and gas sector without sounding like my project is bad for business. So what do you think about that?
Oh,
Renewable energy to the oil and gas sector.
hmm.
How can one, is it feasible? Is it viable?
Well, I believe I'm not into oil renewable energy, but I think it should be
Yeah.
because I think what the person should focus on should be where the renewable energy would be used to benefit the oil and gas industry rather than competing with oil and gas industry. If
Mm,
he says that, then that means he's looking at it holistically. And that means maybe his idea is not narrowed down to a specific thing. So for a PhD, you're expected to focus your idea on something like not the whole field, but rather on just one specific thing. So you should have a focus. For instance, in my first proposal, my focus was very generic, which is very unrealistic. You cannot do that in a PhD. So I was saying that I think my focus was on trainings, but what training are you talking about? So when you say training, it can be like a variety of trainings, which is very generic. So that means in a PhD that cannot be done. Rather, you have to focus it. So in the next one, what I did was I focused on safety training. And while I focused on safety training, I then focused on how knowledge can be transferred into the like real world. So what I'm working on at the moment is how people can learn in virtual environments, like 3D environments where you appear there just like you play games, and then learn a skill in the physical environment, and then come back to the in the virtual environment, and then come back to the physical environment, apply that skill. So what I'm looking into, the science here is how can the knowledge be transferred from that virtual environment to the physical world? So that's just the focus. So for like a PhD is, I see so many people insulting PhD for that. Like you study so many things to focus on something very minute. So I think you should the person should look at how he can narrow down to a specific thing that is not going to make it look like he's like trying to compete with the oil and gas industry. Basically,
Oh,
that's all I can say.
okay.
mm, wow.
Please,
Yeah.
can I chime in here?
Please,
Yes,
On
Billy, I
this.
mean, you can.
Yeah.
Okay, Mama, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone, and congratulations to everyone that have been called for the interviews. For the person talking about renewable energy, I think, like Mohammed mentioned, renewable energy has a great chance of getting PTDF scholarship. The basic thing is to be able to narrow it down. And I believe from if the person is a PhD candidate or a PhD applicant, I believe he or she would have submitted a proposal on what they want to do. So the onus is now being able to get grounded and, like Mohammed mentioned, to be able to narrow it down to a specific goal or a specific problem that they want to solve, and then understand the basic science behind it and be able to explain it as basic as it should be, that the panelists would understand that this person is grounded. Even though you're doing a PhD, it means that it is a problem that is yet to be solved. So you're trying to bring solutions to that problem. And then being in renewable energy or being a renewable energy proposal, the fact that Nigeria is looking at the energy transition and all of that, as much as possible, you're trying to bring in the energy mix in the whole of it, and I believe you have the chance, but not to like beat around the bush. The basic thing is be able to narrow it down. You're not really digressing from your proposal, the one you have uploaded, but be able to get grounded and, as much as possible, be specific about the problem you want to solve. Whether you are looking at renewable energy from the idea of solar, whether you are looking at wind, whether you are looking at maybe things like carbon sequestration and all of that, that would lead to generation of a particular type of energy that will add to the energy mix. The basic thing is narrow it down and then be grounded in terms of your methodology. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Mr. Isa. You really spoke a lot. Yeah, and I'm sure people that have that concern, you heard what Mr. Isa and Mr. Mohammed said. So that should really help you prepare for the interview. So
So
just
our focus, sorry, Esther,
uh,
our focus will be on methodology.
Yeah, definitely.
95%.
Focus on the whole proposal, but
Yeah.
I think it's in the methodology that they will be able to know if you are grounded to begin the research.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
nice, nice, nice. That is great. So I saw one question here. Okay, yeah, something about getting a supervisor. Is that needed before the
Okay,
You
can I
you
chime
don't
in
need to
here?
get a supervisor before the interview, but if you have one, I think it might be an advantage, but it's really difficult to get a supervisor without getting the scholarship, to be honest. Because when you have the scholarship, then supervisors will find it easier to even respond to you because they know you are coming with your funding. So they can just say, okay, come on, I will supervise you.
Yes,
So
that's correct.
they shouldn't focus on anything supervisor, please. Just focus on getting the scholarship first.
Okay, nice, wonderful.
Biliamin wanted to say something, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think you've answered, even though it was a question that was asked, and fortunately enough, I had gotten like a yes from a supervisor.
Congrats.
So I told them that I had one, because when I shared my proposal with him, that was after the application, ahead of the call for interviews, and he was like, it's okay, it's good, this and that. But the irony was that he was leaving the university I was going to. So as at the time I got the offer, he had left the university. So, and that made me to even change the university that I chose in the first place. But that is another thing entirely. But as at the application stage, when they asked, I told them that I had. But just like Mohammed said, it's easier to get a supervisor after getting the funding.
Wow. So I hope you guys noted that. Um, so we'll be going to Chidinma now, but before we go, let me just address some things in the comments. So you don't need a first class to get the scholarship. You're
You don't.
competing with people in your state. So you actually have the opportunity to get it, whether as a 2-1 student or as a 2-2 student. It just depends on who you're competing with and how your interview goes. So it's not saying it's not that, oh, because I must have a first class. No, there are also first class people that also did not get shortlisted. So if you got shortlisted with a 2-1, or 2-2. You've made it to the final stage. Just do your best for the interview. And for the professional membership, you don't know who you're competing with, so you might as well have all the documents requested for. Put your best foot forward and leave the rest to God or Allah. Okay, nice.
Okay,
So,
Esther, please,
yeah,
before you go to Chidinma, sorry,
yes,
before you go to Chidinma, I know the aspect of professional membership was mentioned earlier, but
yeah,
if you look at the application stage, you had the opportunity to upload your professional memberships and you had opportunity to upload your publications. I know these
yeah,
things were mentioned earlier. So, but as much as possible, since you have maximum of 5 professional membership during the application, please, if you have as much as 5, go with all of them.
That's it.
Go with all of them. Anything
Yeah.
that will give you a little edge. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say this, or it's though it's off record, it's something that is a bit private, but just like it's been mentioned that you're competing with people from your state. I was privy to an information about the last our list, and it would surprise you to know that the margin between me and the person that came first from my state was just like 3 points, just 3 points, and we were within the margin of the like 90 plus. That's just the thing. So at the end of the day, this person was like ahead of me with just 3 points. So the whole thing I'm saying in essence is you just want to put in everything that will give you an edge because you don't even know how strong your competitors are.
exactly.
And the basic thing is just put your best foot forward. So whatever it is that you have that will give you an edge, whether it is publications, whether it is professional membership, just go with everything that you have. Thank you.
Okay, nice, 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 nice. So, Chinima, we are coming to you. So people, if you know that you're not doing engineering or geosciences, or you're just doing something outside like public health, something that you know that is not like as in oil and gas, you should really listen to what Chidima has to say. This is your time. Pay attention. And okay, and also Chidima is currently in France. She's doing her master's in public health. So for those asking about, oh, if I put a university and I want to go to another university, things like that, you need to listen to Chidima. So hi, Chidima. Hi, Chidima. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you, Esther. Hi, Esther. Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
So before I dive into the question, I really want to use the opportunity to say thank you to Esther for coordinating and organizing this webinar. I know that this will really go a long way for the shortlisted applicants, and also a big thank you to our guest speaker, Chidozie, Emmanuel, Mohammed, and Isaac for taking out from the busy schedule to do this. Thank you guys very much. And I really want to say congratulations to all the shortlisted candidates, and I wish you guys all the best on the day. So I'm going to be speaking based on my own personal experience during my PTDF interview. I had my interview at Port Harcourt, Uniport precisely, and it was a physical interview. And when I got to the venue, as Shidozi said, like I met a lot of people.
Mhm.
I had the opportunity to interact with people, and I saw that people had good portfolio. I was actually very anxious and nervous at first, but one thing I told myself is that this is the only opportunity I have to convince these people that I'm the best candidate for this scholarship. That was the mindset I had. And when I was ushered in, I met 3 men. As Shidozi said, it was just men. For mine, it was just men in the panel. So when I when I was ushered into the room, the first finalist, what he asked me for was for my certificate, right? So I also went with my awards. I got best graduating student, best retractor of the year, and also the most improved student doing my 1 year training in the oil and gas industry. And I placed that on the top. They didn't ask me for that. What they asked for was for my certificate, but this was an opportunity to like present it to them too. So I gave it to them, and there was this machine in that room. I think they used that to check the how authentic your certificate is or something like that. So I saw the expression on his face when I gave him those certificate. I was like, oh, first class. Or like, okay. And after that, he had to like pass the certificate to the other people on the panel too. And when he got to the last person, he was like, oh, you schooled in Federal University of Tweke, Bayelsa State. I was like, yes. And he said, oh, do you know this certain person, a lecturer in my school? And the lecturer took me chemistry in 200 level. I was like, yeah, I know him. And that was how we started discussing about the lecturer. And he had to like switch, oh, Federal University to okay, what do I have to say about my school and all that? I answered him, and he was asking me how I was able to like navigate the flood issue. Anybody that knows Bayelsa very well knows that Bayelsa has this issue of flood most during the rainy season, and he was asking me how I was able to like navigate the situation. And at that point, I knew that I have to like connect the issue of the flood with the oil spillage because I applied for environmental science, and on my SOP was more talking about how to like clean the oil spillage in the oil producing states. So I had to like relate the flood issue with the oil spillage, and had to like tell them more about that. And the man was like, okay, that's fine. That was the first person on the panel. And the second person was like, oh, you said you want to go for environmental science. What's the reason why you choose this particular method, bioremediation method? And I have to like give him my reasons and all that. And he was like, have you read any article about this research? I was like, yes. I had to mention the ones I've read about. It was like, do you know about this particular article? He mentioned one article like that. I was like, no, but that's the reason why I'm going for this course. I had to like bring up a point like that's the reason why I'm going for this course, to learn more. And definitely if I get the course, I'll be opportunity to like read more on these articles too. That was the second person's question. And when it got to the last person, I started asking me basic things as Chidoze mentioned earlier on. Most time it's not just about the technical question, it's about the basic stuff. As someone that did organic chemistry in school, he asked me about the end product of a particular compound. I can't remember, but I knew that answered the question, and that was how I started asking me about chemical formulas of a
Okay.
particular compounds. And he asked me for like four, I think four questions. And he was like, okay, that's it, it's done. And I think I spent close to 15 minutes for mine. Yeah, I spent like close to 15 minutes. So each person asks a particular question they ask me. And one thing I noticed is that based on your SOP, they are going to ask you a question, and based on your response. So most time, whatever that you give them as a response, they will always bring out a question from that. So that's what I noticed from my own interview, though.
Wow. That's hearing basic questions from what? Wow. Okay. Oh, someone said my senior colleague chemistry. Okay. Wow. Chinima, that's interesting. So that means if you actually come to awards, because I know for some people they're like they don't ask for it. So guys, you heard it. If you have awards, take it with you and present it. Don't
Yes,
be
please
too
present
shy.
it. This is not the point to like be humble. This is the
Yeah.
point to like prove to them that you're the best candidate for that scholarship. It's just a way to tell them, oh, I have all this. Just go with it. Even if they don't ask for it, present it to them. I was not asked for it, but I was able to present it to them, and they didn't say anything about it. So go
So,
with it.
Chima, where was your interview?
Uniport,
Oh,
Port
at
Harcourt.
Uniport. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Hmm. But I know they've changed it now. It's now at their own PTDF. Forgotten what they call it. But anyways, their own center.
Oh.
So also one more question. Chidinma, like how did you dress to the interview?
Okay, so one thing I want to say about I was saying I'm going to say something about that. If
Okay.
you're dressing to the interview, dress smartly. It doesn't have to be like suits and all that. Just dress corporately and make sure you wear something that you're very comfortable in and something that you're very confident in. It's not just about dressing smartly, but also dress in something that you know you're confident and you're comfortable. It won't really disturb you. That won't be an issue. So just dress smartly,
Hmm.
corporately.
Okay. Also, one more question. You know, you are doing public health, but like you did for environmental science. So, does that mean that your questions were based on your first choice university and course?
So the thing is that they didn't ask me anything about my school, why I choose the
Oh,
particular
wow.
choose an school or the country. My question was based on why did you choose environmental science and why did you choose this
Ah,
particular research topic, which is the bioremediation technique to clean oil spillage. That was the question I was asked. They didn't ask me anything about
hmm.
the country or the particular school I choose. So I think it's
Wow.
based on what they want to ask you actually, not there's no
True.
pattern for that.
Wow. Well, and if
A
I'm
lot
right,
of
bioremediation, was it like, did they ask it from your SOP?
Yes, for my SOP, that's the course I used for that. That was my proposed course I used for the application before I have to like switch to public health.
Hmm, nice. Wonderful. So, guys, questions can come from anywhere. You might be asked for your country, why the country. You can be asked anything. Just make sure you can defend your SOP, like I always say. Don't go and cram it too. Just make sure you can defend any question that comes out of it. And if you have a publication, present it. But
someone
like I said, if you present any document, be ready for any question that can come from that document. So,
someone's
oh,
asking, what
yeah.
if my award is a glass award? Should I carry it along?
Hey, you're not ready.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think you
I
should
get
go with it. Go with it.
the frames.
I met someone last year that carried like in fact the glass award is still better. This award was like times two of it. So carry anything that can give you that
Points.
That
Yes,
can give you
yes.
edge. Do it.
exactly that edge. So and for people that are asking for NYC, um, well, PTDF requires your NYC certificate.
Certificate.
However, you can still go. I've met people that also still went for the interview. So I'm not, you can still go for the interview. All right. So, we've heard a lot from those in Germany, France. So if you know you applied to those countries, in fact, if you know you applied for master's or PhD, I'm sure you have gotten something from our speakers before we go into our UK scholars. And so just before we go, Chidoze, please can you tell us like how the men should dress? Someone asked that question.
Okay, yeah. So as I said earlier, for those that was did not hear, I was very confident and relaxed during my interview, right? So I came in as casual as I could. Not casual, but I'm in Abuja, so it's very usual for everyone to wear what do you call that? The traditional wear,
Hmm.
So yeah, and most people in the interview center in Abuja wore that, you know. Yes, so don't have to wear suit and tie. Just feel free, feel free, but make sure you wear something that you're very comfortable in and something that you can wear outside.
Okay.
And yes, that's the much I would say. Yeah.
Okay. Nice, 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 nice. So we are going into UK now, but this time we'll be starting from our PhD scholar, Mr. Issa. So, Mr. Issa, can you tell us like how did you get it? How did you do it? And how was the interview for you?
Okay, thank you so much. For the PhD, this was my second time of applying. 2023, I applied and got selected, and then I was I was abroad. I was in Russia. In fact, I was offshore, and I had to seek for virtual interview. So, and yeah, so the interview was scheduled for 12 o'clock, I remembered, and it was 20 minutes to the time. I got the link, and the link was not connecting and all of that. So, to cut the story short, I had like an extra 1 hour. In fact, I was giving up already before yeah, before I was able to join. I was just waiting on the screen. It was telling me that I would be admitted, I would be allowed in and all of that. So the next thing was I had people from the background. They asked me to put on my camera, and I wasn't seeing anybody actually. So I was just hearing voices. They asked me to present my proposal. I did. Then my documents, I had to show them through the camera. And incidentally, I had my HUD for from my masters amongst the panelists. And I'm giving this background for us to understand that sometimes I would just say that the scholarship come as at the time I would put the God factor. God has decreed that you get it, but again, just put in your best effort, right? So I did had the interview. It was seamless, even though the fact that it was virtual, there was some level of pressure on me. But again, I was able to present what I proposed to do, and the questions came in just like the physical interview. And then after everything, even though I was suspecting from the voice, I was suspecting that it was my HOD. Then after the whole interview and the formalities, he called my name the way he used to, and I was like, prof, this and that. So to cut the story short, in 2023, I think it was around Salah period or so when the list was released for the awardees, and my HOD called me with some happiness in his voice that it's alpha. And I was like, I didn't get it. And he was a bit heartbroken, if I may put it that way. He was surprised that I didn't get it because he told me, like, the feedback I got was that the presentation, the interview was exceptional and all of that. So 2024 came, I didn't apply. 2025, I did apply. But again, all through the application period and all of that, my focus was on France, actually. So the choice um, of UK, particularly the split sites, came just like 3 days to the close of the application. And the essence was that I got that heads up from a professor in Robert Gordon, which was one of the universities that is a partner universities to um, College of Petroleum and Energy Studies in Kaduna, which is the new PTDF university. So seeing that I have someone that aligns with my area of research and was ready to supervise me, even though he told me that his projects or the funding he has would be finishing, but if there is a new funding coming in, then he would extend his stay. So somehow I had that hope that hopefully if his funding extends, he would still be there. But unfortunately, after I got it, he had left the university. But that was like part of the reasons why I had to just move from the GFM option to the split site option. But beyond that, also, the fact that I am a lecturer in a Nigerian university gave me that edge that, okay, however it is, even though as at that time, we didn't know the length of time to spend in the UK and the time to spend in Nigeria. All I believe is the fact that my fieldwork area and what I'm working on is in Nigeria. So having to work split side would give me that ample time, to be able to do my fieldwork the way it should be, and then being able to do my other aspects of the work in the UK. So I went for the interview, like everybody came in, like Chidozie said earlier. When I got there, the whole process of checking in was there and all of that. We were all in the same hall, and then we were called on the basis of the time of arrival. And then we had this waiting room. We had to wait. I did my interview at Bauchi. So when I got in, the interviewers welcomed me and all of that. The first thing was I should give them my number, my application number. So I did, and they were like, they didn't see my name. Did I check in? So that was like what brought the tension and pressure. I was like, yes. That am I sure that I was shortlisted? I was invited. I said yes, I was.
Mm.
So they had to ask me to go back to the main hall, you know.
Ah.
Yes, I did. And before I came back, someone else was in the room already. So when I went back in for the second time, I think the tension was a bit doused down as compared to when I came in the first time, because I had already seen the setting of the room,
Yeah.
and then I've seen the faces of the people. So going back, I gave them the documents, and then the geology professor that was amongst them saw the university I graduated from, and immediately he called the name of my supervisor. It was
Mm.
like, ah, Professor Ahmed Boys, you know. So that gave me some level of ease, knowing that this person knows my supervisor. And then coming to my transcript, they saw that I graduated with distinction from my MSc. So they were like, wow, so you mean you had this point? I was like, yes. So they went on to ask me to tell them about my work.
Mm.
So I went on to tell them first the aim, why I want to do this, and they were like, okay, they were not really interested in that first. I should give them the methodology. How do I intend to achieve this? So I went on to just give them in simple terms, as much as simple as I can, but keeping to the scientific or the technical aspect of it. So one of them I know wasn't a geoscientist, but he was like really interested in what I want to do. But the other question was the source of CO2, because I am looking at doing carbon sequestration in rocks that are within the northeast, and then we have the Niger Delta down south where the emissions are higher and all of that. But again, I had to also look at some of the point sources around the northeast, particularly the cement factories and all of that, which was part of what I did in my literature review to see, okay, this is a problem that I already envisaged that may come or may arise as a result of the location, and I already had an answer to it. So having that, it made it a bit easier that they understood that have my I already identify where the challenge may come, and already I have an answer to that. So beyond that, I think that was just basically it for me. And I know that another thing that may have helped based on my own understanding, or I perceive it to be that, is my professional membership, because they
Mm.
emphasized on that and they asked, I gave three, and they were like, is that all?
Ah.
So yes. So, and I was like, that was all. So we had two other people, as in they were three. One person was looking at the documents, the other one was asking questions, and I think all of them had their laptops entering the scores and all of that. But beyond that, I think the other thing was that even I went with all my publications, and like I mentioned, I'm in the academia. So having to pursue a PhD was not far-fetched. The fact that, okay, why am I even pursuing a PhD? So that question was just immediately I said I am in the academia. So the question was off, like there was no question anymore about why I want to pursue a PhD. So, and that was it for me. My publications were there, but I was not asked for any, you know. And then after the interview, one thing that I felt gave me like a feedback was the professor that I mentioned, who mentioned my supervisor's name. So when we came out, sincerely, after the whole interaction in the first place, I wasn't tensed. I was confident in what I was saying. And then when we came out, I think they came out for lunch, and he saw me, was like, ah, Issa, well done. I really liked the way you presented
Wow.
your ideas. And that was it. In fact, I never knew the professor, and it was even after the notification of award I think I saw his picture in one program that my professor attended, and I was asking, who is this man? And he now told me this was his name and affiliation and all of that. So in all, for me, I would say be confident in when it comes to the interview. Be confident, because the truth is there is no question that would be asked out of what you already know. And mainly, your questions in most cases will come from what you presented. Either it is your SOP or your proposal. It will always come from what you presented. And then if you're not sure of something, please don't mention it, because sometimes it will open that Pandora box that would warrant you to answer some more questions. Yes. So just understand the basics. And like Muhammad said earlier, there is emphasis on your methodology. You should be able to understand the methods you want to use in achieving the aims you have outlined that you want to achieve. So that's just it for me, like my PTDF interview experience. Thank you.
Wow. Wow.
Wow,
Nice.
very
That
comprehensive.
like
Very, very comprehensive. I like that.
wow. So
A lot
we
of
have to
questions.
okay.
So people have been asking, is it possible to have a virtual interview even when they scheduled a physical one? And
Yeah.
do you think you have more advantage? Do you think you can there's a chance that one can get the scholarship through a virtual interview
Okay,
than
I know
on-site?
someone personally that had gotten through virtual interview, and like I mentioned, the
I know
possibility is
someone too.
yes, aha, you know. So the possibility is that it is possible, and it's been proven. I had the virtual interview in 2023, and it was seamless. I don't think there is any difference between it and the physical
Physical.
interview. It's just that
Yeah.
in the virtual interview, yesterday I was listening to someone sharing his experience. You could just think out of the box. What he shared, he did, was to make a PowerPoint, even though it wasn't requested nor required, you know. But again, he went on from his own idea and made a PowerPoint of what he wants to do, his proposal mainly, and then how he wants to do it. So at the end of the day, it wasn't something that the panelists expected that he was going
Wow.
to do. Yeah. But when he told them that he had a PowerPoint presentation to make, so there was some murmuring within the panelists, like, how? But one of them said, no, give him the chance. And they said they gave him, was it 5 minutes or so? To present, even though at the end of the day they extended he went beyond the 5 minutes. But then I feel he was ahead of the panelists, if I may put it that way, for him to have understood what he wants to do and then went on to prepare this. Yes, they may not have agreed or allowed him to do the PowerPoint presentation, but again, the worst you can get is a no. So he had prepared within his own control, whatever it is that is within his control, to have done the PowerPoint in anticipation of the interview. So, and he got the chance to present what he had. And right now he has the scholarship. He's a scholar already. And he had masters then. In fact, he just finished his masters when he applied, and then eventually he got this. So it's
Oh,
possible, and just think out of the box.
okay.
Yeah.
And how long was your interview?
Okay. For me, because I had a two-part, if I may put it that way, the first time it was just confirming or checking me in. When I went out, already my documents were with them, you know. So I believed before I came back, they had already checked the documents and the authenticity of the documents, because they will pass the document through an ultraviolet light to be sure that the documents are genuine. So when I came back, I didn't have to go through that. The whole thing was like, okay, why do I want to do this PhD? And I should go on to explain to them the mechanism or the methodology that I want to do. So by and large, I didn't have the time to check, but again, the guys outside, the other guys waiting for the interview told me that I spent a total of 8 minutes when I went back.
Okay, 8
Yes,
minutes.
8 minutes. Yes.
Okay, that's very short
Mm,
Like,
for all of these question and answers.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
hmm,
And someone asked on the chat,
okay.
how were you able to get your interview online scheduled?
Yeah.
Okay. I think after the, how do I do this now? I actually sent an email. Then there was this EMC at ptdf.org.ng or so. And I believe, sorry, Esther, I believe majority of the people that have that are on this call have registered, right? So is there a possibility of maybe sending maybe an email or maybe on the WhatsApp group? I will check for the emails. And then this guy that I was saying had a virtual interview. I think in his video he sent something similar, the emails he used. But basically
Uh,
what I did was to send an email. You know, when I did that, I didn't get a reply. And for anybody that wants to change to virtual, Kai, I'm having a meeting. Go to mama. Go to mama. Yeah. Sorry. So for every or for anyone that wants to change to virtual, I think
Yeah.
the best thing is to send the email or contact PTDF as early as possible so that they're
Yeah.
able to fix because there are time slots, you know.
Yeah.
So that was what I did, and then I also attached my course evidence, if I may put it that way, my course approval because I was offshore, you know, and then the stamp page on my passport, the arrival stamp. So I
Yeah.
put all of that as evidence to say that I'm not just trying to run away from the
Yeah.
physical interview. These are
Yeah.
genuine reasons why I'm not able to present myself for the physical interview, and I was
Okay.
given the room to do that.
Okay.
Hmm.
No,
okay,
no. Okay.
can I
Okay.
add something here?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I didn't have my interview online, but I was able to make inquiry for someone, from someone who had his own online, like the virtual format. So, and the information I got from him was that, for instance, if the person is not in Nigeria, the person should write an email, just like Isa said, and send the email to, if it is masters, I think MSc underscore OSS at ptdf.edu.ng or something like that. I think I can share that to maybe Chidozie or someone, and then he can post on the chat. So, and then if it is PhD, it's the same, but the only difference is that it's PhD underscore OSS at PhD at PTDF rather .edu.ng or something like that. And in the email, you copy, I think, B Shafi'i and another person, I don't remember the name. So, but I think that's just the procedure. Sometimes he told me that they might reject and sometimes they might accept. But I believe it all depends on what you provide in the email. For instance, Isa said he added the stamp he got on his passport when he was traveling and something like that. So in the case of the person I was asking for, that person suggested that he can actually attach a copy of his residence permit since he's not in Nigeria at the moment he was asking that question. And he thinks that will suffice because that was what he did. So I think
Okay.
that's basically the process. So for the
Okay.
emails, I think I'll try to check my chat with him now and send to maybe Chidozie so he can share with the
Okay.
participants.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you very
nice.
much. And then one more question from me, for the PhD candidates. Is the MSc transcript, is it required? Because on the website during the application, it didn't state that you need to upload the transcript or you need to bring the transcript along, just your MSc certificate.
Yeah, okay. For me, I think like I mentioned, anything that will give you an edge. Because the truth is, when you filled in the application, particularly for your MSc, for your PhD, there was a
Yeah.
room for you to put your score, right? Your CGPA.
Yes.
So sometimes it's just like to validate what you had put out there. Anybody can put anything, you know,
Yeah.
even though the transcript upload was not starred, it wasn't compulsory as at the time of application. But if you
Yeah.
have it, why not? Because I know there are some transcript that may not show explicitly that this is your CGPA. It can just maybe show some percentage and all of
Yeah.
that. But sometimes they do not even have the time to say they want to convert it from one format to the other. The whole thing is that your transcript will just validate what you already claim to have had.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
for some, just a side comment, for some universities abroad, they don't have the same pattern as those obtainable in Nigeria. For example, some schools, especially if you're doing your masters, they just at the end of the master, they just say pass or fail. So there's no grade, no percentage, no number, no alphabet, just he passed this master's program. But
Yeah.
individual courses were graded, right? But the overall grade was pass or fail. And of course, if I'm applying for if I'm going to have a certificate, that means I passed. Do you get? So there are people that have such circumstance. What do they now do?
Okay, in that case, for me, because your courses were graded, and I believe since your courses were graded, they are either the A, the pass, or whatever,
Mhm.
as at when you were in school, you would have been able to see your grades. For me, what I may advise is if it's possible, yes, they may not have a way to authenticate that. But if
Yes.
you have it, you can have a table like we normally do the unofficial transcript thing. I
Yes,
remember
yes,
during my master's application, I didn't have my transcript, but I had all my grades. So I just put it in a tabular format like the normal transcript would be, but I
yeah.
now put it boldly on it that it's unofficial, right? So for
Okay,
me, I think it gives them some room to be able to see an X-ray to have an idea about how, in quotes, how good you are. So
okay.
all I'm saying is whatever would give you a little
True.
edge,
Edge, yes.
if it's allowed,
It's very
please do
important to
it.
put it. And
Yeah.
then to be on a level playing ground,
Mm.
the grading scale is also different. So for example, an A in this part of the world is from 85 and above, right?
Mm-hmm.
But A in
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria is from 70.
Yeah.
So how do you need to convert your grades to the Nigerian style? Or because if you have a C in this part of the world is an A in Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you so if to be on a level playing ground, it would be unfair if they use the C as the C or the D
Okay.
as the D. Do you understand what
Oh,
I'm saying?
okay. Okay.
Yeah, do
Let
you
me
get what
chime
I'm
in
saying?
here.
Yes.
The thing about grades, what I believe they do in terms of the grading, particularly for PTDF, which I may be wrong, would be that they look at your O level. That is the one that is like across board. But
Yeah.
for transcript, honestly, you can just leave it as the way it is in your school, the way it's being graded. The only thing
Okay.
is, if there is a room, you could have like an extra note to tell them that this is this. Because no matter how it is, no matter how different the grading system is, for you to have A's or A, B, and all of that, in the grading system of where you are, like say Germany, for example, once they see that they know that you are a top student, right? You don't have to
Okay.
know the exact equivalent to Nigeria, really, because for a top student, if it is to give you an edge, particularly you submitting your transcript, is just to give you an edge to say, okay, yes, you are an exceptional student or you're a top student. Definitely they are expecting to see A's and maybe few B's. So it could
Okay.
be the same with maybe in a place where it's percentage. They are seeing 90s and 80s. They will know that no, this person is a top student. That would be my
Okay.
answer for that.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's one question here that for people that are going for PhD, if they are not yet done with their master's, so they don't have their MSc certificate, can an attestation letter work?
Yeah, okay. For me, I think if PTDF calls you for the interview, it means all the things you have submitted have passed the checklists of what they want. It means you have a chance to have that scholarship, right? So the
Yeah.
only thing is now being able to have those things to present to them. So I believe if you have an attestation, they should be able to accept it, for you to have been already been called for the interview. Because sometimes I know of a couple of persons that because of NYSC, they were not called, for the interview,
Wow.
so yeah, and they are top students, first class and all and what have you. So if you have the attestation and you had already passed this stage of being called for the interview, please go with what you have.
Okay. So 2 or 3 more questions. So someone said that they did, after submitting my application, I did further research and refined my proposal into a more focused topic. I would like to confirm if I can present this updated version.
Okay, let me chime in here. Maybe Muhammad may have something to say. Now, in
Yeah.
2023, we made an application, and I think there was a room for us to update the venue or something. And as at then, I think there was still room to change, to upload or update your proposal, which I don't think was the same with last year. But the basic thing is, if I believe if it is something that is within the same uh, theme of what you had submitted, that it doesn't really change the topic drastically. Maybe let's assume during your application, it was just some little literature review you did, you put on AI and refined the whole thing and submitted, and you got selected and you felt, okay, since I have been selected, I know this is a serious business. Let me refine this. And then you needed to change some things, So as far as the what you are presenting is not totally different from what you had submitted earlier, but maybe a refinement or an advanced technique, for example, beyond what you had submitted. So I believe there should still be room for you to present it, because if you are presenting if you're presenting something that is a bit better and more appealing to your panelists, than what you had submitted in the proposal, then it's fine, because they are not following it verbatim. They're not following your proposal verbatim, line by line, paragraph by paragraph. No, they don't even have the time. You also do not have the time. Once you are given the opportunity, it's like a blank check. Is for you to now present what you have in the most refined way, and then as simple as it could be. Mohammed, I don't know if you have anything to add to this.
I don't think I have anything to add. You have said everything. And I noticed that one of the speakers might be leaving the meeting. And to be
Yes,
honest, I
Emmanuel
would
by
want the
leaving.
people
Yeah.
to hear from him. So I think it
Yes,
will
Yeah.
be
please.
better if
Yeah.
the host ask him his questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
So
please.
sorry.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Emmanuel is
Okay.
about to leave.
Oh, okay. So sorry, Emmanuel. So,
No problem.
Emmanuel, can we hear from your own experience? In fact, there's a particular question tailored to you.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Lovely hearing everybody's experiences. And yeah, congratulations to everybody that has gotten to the interview round. I wish you all the best. Uh, for me, getting to the interview round, I think all the speakers have done justice to how you should prepare. I think one of the key things they spoke about is like your confidence levels. So for me, what I did was getting to the interview round, I knew um, basically my SOP because I'm the one that wrote it. I knew what I wrote in my SOP and my reasons for wanting to go study what I wanted to study. And one of the questions I kind of over prepared for actually was the question of tell us the course you're going to study and what you want to and why you want to go and study it, and then how it will help the PTDF initiative in the long run. Um, and fortunately for me, I remember I remember getting to the place, seeing a lot of people, you get kind of get agitated because people come out and they're like, oh wow, it was terrible. This one says, oh, they asked me about my grandfather's school and whatnot, and you are like quite frightened. But
Mm.
um, I want to say kind of luckily for me, I kind of went in last, so like all the interviewers were kind of like tired, they were eating, they were just relaxed, and I guess by God's grace, luckily for me, I went in,
At the
I
right time.
sat down. I sat down and then the first thing they asked me is I think the woman looks at me and was like, why do you have a compound name? And I'm busy trying to explain my family origins to her. And she's like, okay, okay, relax, relax, relax. And then they take my documents, look through it. And yeah, and luckily for me, actually, the only question they asked me is, okay, tell me the course you're going to study and why you're going to study what you're studying and
Mm.
how it impacts PTDF. And like I said, that's literally the only thing I prepared for. So I knew line by line what I was
Mm.
going to say. So once they asked me the question, I I started regurgitating all the things I had recited. Right. This. I was giving them the point. And then one was like, oh, don't worry, it's okay, thank you. Literally didn't finish. And
Wow.
that was my interview. Like it was like 5 minutes. And she was like, good job. And I'm like, oh, did I make a mistake? And she's like, oh no, no, we are good. We are good. Then
Mm.
they asked me for my what's it called? Certifications. And I feel like that's one of the important things actually, the amount of certifications you have. Because I went there with like four and they were like, oh wow, you have four. And I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to, trying to impress you guys. And she was like, oh, good, good. So I feel like the amount of certifications you have also helps. And yeah, I guess that's everything. Just go in confident. You need to know um your onions basically, right? If you're lucky like me, you get asked only one question, and then if you're also lucky, you get to be asked more questions. So you just need to prepare as much as possible, right? So that's all for me.
Wait, Emmanuel, please, just one question tailored to you. And this
Sure.
person is asking for MSc candidates, if one chose automation and control,
Hmm.
does one still need to narrow it, like explaining the problem one wants to solve in
Um.
automation and control?
Okay. The answer I'll give to that is like yes, because you can't just say you want to go do automations and control. Like, what in automations and control do you want to do, right? And you being able to bring out a problem statement shows that you actually know what you are going to do, right? So you just going to say, I'm going to do automation and control, and they're like, so what about automations and control? So you need to narrow your stuff down into a very solid problem statement that you're trying to solve, and then that definitely gives you an edge. So yeah, you definitely need to do that.
Hmm. So picking a specific problem is very important.
Yes, very,
Someone
very
still wants to
important.
know if you're a best graduating student.
No, I wasn't BGS, unfortunately.
And
I was the
someone
BGS
asked
I was the BGS friend.
Mm.
someone asked, how did you relate AI to oil and gas? What
Oof,
specific problem did you mention?
okay, very good question. If I remember clearly, one of the problems I mentioned was I live in Port Harcourt, or I used to live in Port Harcourt, right? And one of the prevailing things in the oil and gas region were this thing about like oil bunkering, oil spillage and stuff. And
Yeah.
I realized that imagine you could have very good surveillance systems where you don't actually need to have human beings being there to check maybe if there's an oil spillage and stuff. You just have maybe a sentry tower that has computer vision models running on them, and then they can early detect these things and early report these things. So that's one of the areas I did come from. That's I yeah, that's one of the areas I came from. So yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay.
Also,
Okay. That's nice.
Emmanuel, did you go with your like transcript? Is it needed as a for the interview?
Oh, there go my transcripts. There go my transcripts. I I can't remember. I just took all the documents they asked us to take, and that's all I took. Like all the
Like,
documents they tell you to bring.
like how many copies?
Ooh, maybe 2. See, go with as much as possible. Oh. Like everybody has said, if you have plaque, they give you plaque. Please go with your
Yeah.
plaque. Go and show them that. See, I'm different from everybody.
Right.
That's the goal.
But like, is publication needed for like MSc
For
application?
masters, I will say no because I know a couple of people that I don't have any publication, right?
Mm.
I'm not like our guys here that are doing PhD. I'm just a small boy. I don't have any
This guy.
publication. So
Oh,
you don't necessarily need the publication. Yeah.
mhm.
But
Okay.
it's
And
really competitive
hmm,
to secure a UK PTDF scholarship.
yeah.
Hmm.
What
Ah,
how very because a lot of people want to. It's natural for
Yeah.
people to apply to the UK. So what advice or what word of advice can you give to I think over 80% of the people that apply to UK,
Hmm.
what's is your parting advice to them?
Okay, very good question. The sad truth is that it's not everybody that will get it, sadly, like the UK, right? It's like you said, it's quite competitive. And I feel like by God's grace, there were just some because I feel the entire system is point based, if I am right. They give points based on all the documents they ask you to bring. And then um some there are some things that you can't necessarily change now. Because if I remember clearly, one of the things they give points for is how many A's you had in WAEC, which to me sounds a bit odd, right? But that's one of the things I believe they give points for. Right? Those things you can't change. For example, your grade in uni, you can't also change that. So um my advice is basically apply towards your strength, right? You know yourself. Nobody can know you better than you do know yourself, right? So apply towards your strengths. Like we said earlier in the first interview, try as much as possible not to be tunnel vision and say, oh, it's only the UK I'm going to apply to. If if you aren't sure that the people in the states you originate from, you can't necessarily compete with them by applying to the UK, then why not try Germany? Why not try France, right? So I feel like just try and apply towards your strengths. And it's not like anybody's telling you you aren't good enough, right? Nobody's essentially saying that. If you think that well, I stand a very good chance to get the UK scholarship, then definitely apply for that. But then if you know that maybe one of these areas are not so strong, and you think if you apply towards another less demanding area you get in, then why not apply to that? So that's the
Mm.
advice I'll give.
Wow. So there's one question here for someone. Hi, I'm currently doing my master's in another country and I'm going for like PTDF master's interview. Should I include my master's program in my CV?
I would say no. And the reason why I would say this is because in most cases, you're already in another country doing masters, and then you want to come back. You want to go to another country through PTDF to do another PhD. I believe this is my own perception. I'm not saying this is the rule, but if I were to be one of the panelists, I wouldn't select you, to be honest.
Sure.
I would just say that you should allow other people to have Jawad, Jawad, silence. I would just look at it as, since you're in another country, why not allow other Nigerians to have the opportunity to also explore?
Yes.
So I think you should not say that you already have another master's, or you are in
Yeah.
another country doing a master's. If it was PhD, I would say fine, that's an advantage instead. But for masters, I would say no.
Mm.
okay. Let me chime in here. I know Emmanuel is going. Please can you hear me?
Yeah, Emmanuel, so sorry.
Okay,
Uh,
sorry, Emmanuel.
I can
I
hear
have
you.
this experience. Hello? Okay.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can I go on?
sure, sure.
Okay. So in 2024, I applied and wasn't selected. And what was the reason? I already had my master's. I remember I applied in 2023. So PTDF has my footprints or my application footprints. So immediately I applied. And what was it? I saw a course that I felt, okay, if I should get, I can cascade down to or can transition to PhD. So it's a master's that is a like 2 years master's, but you can now move into PhD after the master's. So it's like a 5 years PhD program, but you can do your master's before you move into this. And I applied and beautiful proposal and everything, but I wasn't even selected for the interviews. So I'm very sure if this person asking this question, um, I believe they did not put it in their application in the first place, because if they did, PTDF would not have even shortlisted them in the first place for this interview. So there is no need. At this point, that is not an edge. It wouldn't give you any edge. So there is no need even mentioning it to anyone or the panelists that you have a master somewhere. Just shelve it, put it in your pocket, and get the PTDF scholarship. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And someone
Emmanuel,
asks for
okay.
CV, like for MSc candidates, do you have to go with your CV?
No, okay, sorry. I know the question might be for Emmanuel, but I don't think at any point PTDF will ask you for CV. All the information PTDF needs from you were the things you uploaded during application. All they
Okay.
needed is to confirm those things, particularly the documents that you claim to have. So it's for them to confirm those documents. I don't know if anybody had spoken about or mentioned these documents, particularly those state of origin documents, your birth certificates, and all of that. I know they are micro documents, but they are also very important. They are
Yes.
also very important. So I thought to mention it. If you don't have the originals, please try to get it. If it means getting somebody from your village to get the original and all of that, please try to get those things. They are also very important.
All right. Thank you.
Nice. Okay. I still saw one. Okay. So Emmanuel has somewhere to be. So
Yes.
there are still some
Thank
other
you, ma'am.
questions for our dear speakers, and one of them is concerning publication. So people are asking if they have a publication that doesn't relate to oil and gas, is it wise to present it?
Well, I would say yes, because even though it's not related to oil and gas, that is not the main thing that should be judged as to whether it is your whole study is going to be related to oil and gas or not, but rather that can be used as a yardstick to measure if you already have started building yourself in like research skills. So I think they should present them.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, nice. And also, what if like the publication is yet to be published, so maybe it's still under a review? Should they still, can they?
Okay. I think they should be able to show that, because for instance, you can defend your PhD dissertation and graduate without getting the publications done completely here in Germany. I know. So if that can be done for you to get a PhD, then why not for getting a scholarship? So I think it's just show them that you are motivated to do that. You have already started submitting for publications, and here is my manuscript that I've already submitted. I think it's fine. Since they are not going to publish it, I think they are not doing anything unethical. So they should go ahead and display them.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, there's still one question. So this person is like, if I already have an admission letter, can I go with it for UK? You don't need it. Honestly, you don't need it for that interview. However, when answering a question, you can mention it, but like it's not, how do I put it? It's not, they're not asking if you have an admission. They just want to know why you're actually going to that school, whichever school that you put there, if they ask you a question relating to that. Also, if a person has a publication, should they print just the abstract or like the full publication? I don't know.
Isa, what do you think? I would say
Okay,
the whole paper, to be honest.
Yeah.
For me,
So,
I did printed the publications I had. But again, the fact that I wasn't asked about them, I felt what was the need,
The need,
But
yeah.
they didn't go to waste, sincerely, because after that award, I had to use them for my promotion at work, which they needed the hard copy, so it wasn't needed. But again, like I mentioned, during application, it's the abstract. In most cases, you're able to upload, sometimes because of the size limit, So just use your discretion. What sits your mind. If you're able to print all of them, please do, because sometimes it depends on who the panelists are. Some may ask you and they may want to flip through. Some may just not ask. Some may ask for the abstract. So what suits your mind, just go with it.
Yeah.
wow.
Sorry, Issa, I don't know if you spoke about the split sites.
Oh, yeah.
Not many of us understand that the split site doesn't mean you get to choose between where you start from. For example, I know it's between Nigeria and the UK. So do you choose where maybe I want to start from the UK or I want to start from Nigeria? Or do they choose that for you? So
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, are you done, Mr.
yes,
Chidozie?
I'm done.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. So for the split site, now during our application, the fact that Split Sites program, it's a flagship program that just started
Yes.
last year. We just got inducted, like physical induction, um, last week. And our virtual induction was around September, after the award and everything. But we had the physical induction. And I would want to suggest everyone, after this, you may just Google search CPESK to see what the university is all about, the mission and all of that. It's a beautiful university, if I may put it that way, good structures and everything. But about the framework, um, the the program is a split site program, like it's been mentioned, between 3 UK schools for now. And PTDF is already working on expanding the scope, to other universities in the UK, and even some already in Malaysia, and with time, Germany and other GFM listing. But the main focus, or the main essence, is still within the PTDF's mandate in developing indigenous manpower for the oil and gas industry. So the essence is to domesticate the knowledge, the technology we are trying to get all over as a result of funding the PhD or MSc scholars. For now, it's for PhD scholars, but the plan is futuristic, even for the MSc scholars. So talking about where to start, it all depends. Now, for Robert Gordon University, you are to start from the UK. And the split site program is 3 years. You have maximum of 12 months to spend in the UK, in any of those schools: Robert Gordon University, the University of Strathclyde, and the University of Portsmouth. So you have three universities and 12 months maximum to spend in any of those universities. Then you have 24 months to spend in CPSK, so it depends. For Robert Gordon, you have to start in the UK. For Strathclyde and Portsmouth, it depends on your arrangement between your supervisors. And here you have a primary in-country based supervisor who is allocated to you by PTDF on the basis of the alignment of your research, right? And then at least one supervisor in the partner university. For me and majority of other split site scholars, you have two supervisors in the university in the UK, either in Strathclyde, Robert Gordon, or Portsmouth, while you have one in-country supervisor. So for most Strathclyde PhD scholars, you have that flexibility of either starting in Nigeria and then going to the UK, or you stagger it. You can start some part of your study in Nigeria, maybe 6 months in Nigeria, go to the UK, do some 6 months lab work and all of that, come back to Nigeria, and then go back to the UK. PTDF is ready to sponsor that. I know we've not gotten to that that extent, of this. We are just talking about the interviews, but for those people that have applied to the split site, it's quite a robust framework that is on ground. And then the fact that it's a flagship, so there are a lot of teaching things to fine tune and all of that. But the framework is great, if I may put it that way.
Okay.
It's quite great. Yeah.
So in total, the split side, the PTDF is for 3 years. Sorry, the PhD is for 3 years, right?
Yes. Yes.
So okay.
Yes. The PhD is for 3 years, while you
Very
have
exciting
maximum.
very exciting to spend 24 months in Nigeria. Very exciting.
Yeah, you can stagger it, but the truth is, until we get to see it, what PTDF have put on ground in terms of structure, the physical structure, the facilities, they are amazing. They look
Okay.
amazing. Let me put it that way. But again,
Okay.
hopefully, we are optimistic that it would go as planned.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think the first thing first is to get the scholarship. Then any other
Exactly.
discussion can come up after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. There's one question for you, Chidima, and it's regarding professional membership. So if your BSc is not related to your selected course, but you have a professional certification and hands-on related to the course, do you lean towards your grade in your certification or your BSc? I'm not too sure that.
Esther, please, I don't understand the question. Can you?
Okay, so this person, I think what this person is trying to say is, so your BSc is probably in biochemistry, but like your professional certification is more towards, let's say, environmental science or like public health, and that's like where you have hands-on experience. So when defending, do you defend or when presenting your answers, should your answers speak more to your bachelor's or like that particular course that you put in your application when submitting?
So anything that they're going to ask you that they will be based on your SOP. So that should be based on the proposed course you have on your SOP. That's the question they're asking you. And any answer you should be giving, you should be able to like relate it to the oil and gas industry and your proposed course, not your BSc background.
Okay. And one more question. Must the professional membership be related to oil and gas?
And for me, for my own, I used professional body from Biochemistry Society and also from the oil and gas industry, IWDCF. That was the two I used. So it can all your professional membership can also come from your degree background.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Chidima, I think this was the question, right? For example, the person said if your BSc is not related to the selected course that's relevant to the oil and gas industry in Nigeria,
Okay.
but you have a professional certification which you included in your SOP.
Education. Okay.
Yes, and that certification is related to the course which is related to the oil and gas industry in Nigeria. Do you talk more on the certification or do you talk more on your bachelor's?
So I think depending on the question they ask you, actually, will determine the angle you'll be going, right? If the question has to do with for you to talk more about your experience, that's
Yeah,
right. So it all depends on the question you're being asked, actually.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Depends
Okay.
on the question. Yeah.
This person asking on visa, when you get the scholarship, all those visa
About
questions will be
visa.
answered by
Yes.
PTDF. It's nice to be answered. Get the scholarship first, and the visa part is not your issue. Okay, I think I'm still saying, how can we answer the question of our plans after our masters if we are returning to Nigeria?
Tell them you are returning back.
Tell them you're
Exactly,
returning back.
like it helps push
That is
you.
the answer. Tell him you're returning back.
Tell them you're returning back.
Yeah.
Uh, if you want to continue, wait, if you want to continue to PhD to solve the problem, given the fact you'll be asked about coming back, wait, given the fact that you'll be asked about coming back to Nigeria after your studies, where should your answer lean on? Coming back.
Definitely.
Like, they're supposed you to
Obviously,
come
it's
back and
coming
make.
back because PTDF has not sponsored you for PhD. It's a
Ex-
futuristic thing, so you have to. I think even coming back would give you. At that point, you don't have to. You don't have any reason to tell them this is what you want to pursue for PhD because you're pursuing a funding for MSc. So get the funding first, then your MSc will determine whether you go on to do a PhD in that same field.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, so there's a question on O levels, or rather WAEC result. If you don't have your, so as much as possible, try your best to go with your original results. You don't want a situation where the panelist is telling you, oh, get this, or you're trying to look for like how to solve the issue. So if you don't have your WAEC original result because of certain issues, at least try to ensure that they can see the digital version. So if I'm right, I think you need to go with a scratch card or something like that. Just something that they can actually go to WAEC site and view your results. Okay, there's still one other question. Let me just, I think I wrote it down here.
Yeah.
Because,
Sorry, just
yeah,
a quick question for the PhD guys.
okay.
So we're not giving luxury of choices for the our titles, right? For the in the PhD application. So the proposal, do we always have to relate it to the title? If you get the question.
I don't think this is very clear. Like, what title are you talking about? The title of your like your research,
Not the title
or
of the research.
title as in someone, for instance, a doctor, you call him title. I don't really get your question, to be honest.
Okay. For example, while applying for the PhD on the portal, it says
Mm.
okay, PhD in mechanical engineering. They will say corrosion. Then maybe the next one, PhD in materials engineering. They can say material science and something. So it's already there. So we have to
I get.
choose. So we didn't come up with, okay, maybe PhD in mechanical engineering, cathodic protection. So we didn't, it was already there. So we had to
Yes.
work with what they have. So are we relating our proposal to what we already have on the PTDF portal, or do we have to focus more on or develop our own research area?
I think you should stick
Okay.
to your own research area, not because they have
Okay.
that categorization. I think
Okay.
that's just for them to be able to know, to categorize, like, where are you applying into. For
Apply.
instance,
Okay.
I think for people in computing, would see hours to be different with people in engineering, like in your own case. For
Yeah.
instance, in my own case, there was no option that goes to, like, with my area of specialization. However, I chose what is just closer to that and just made
Okay.
it the category. But it didn't
Okay.
have any effect on my proposal. So my proposal remained my own idea. I didn't really
Mm.
follow their own titling to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
okay, thank you so much. And one more important question, right? The um research question, is it important?
Yes,
Yes, I know it's important. It's critical. Do do,
it's
do I
important.
do one have to say it during the interview?
Okay.
The research
I
question.
think you don't have to say, okay, my research questions are this and that, but know them, because they will be the
Okay.
ones to check. If they ask you about the research question, then that is when you clarify or do something about it. But
Okay.
then you don't need to like mention them, like
Okay.
list them for them. I didn't do anything like that. I had
Okay.
research questions, and I believe Isa must have had the same, but
Okay.
Yeah.
I did not list them for them
Oh,
to hear, to be
okay.
honest. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So
Yeah.
just to chime in on that, the thing is the methodologies you are explaining, somehow they are aligning to the questions you are asking, to the aims and objectives that you have,
Okay.
right?
That's
So
right.
at
That's
the end
right.
of the day, your main interest, I don't know, we are still coming back to the methodology thing. Like, it's
Yeah.
just the crux of your work,
Yes.
really. You don't
Yes.
even have the time. That's true.
Hmm.
So that's just the truth. So you
That's right.
just give them what they need to have as an overview of what you want to do and the problem you want to solve.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Thank you
Okay,
so
that,
much.
that makes a lot of sense. Yes, of course. This person asking for copy of proposal, have a copy of every document that they asked you for, and try to get the original. Like I said, you can go with what you have, but do your best to get the original so that you don't have issues during the interview. And okay, because in the form, I saw a lot of people asking if there's going to be a mock interview. So we'll be having a mock interview for master's applicants at a discounted rate of 10,000 naira. So if you're interested, after this webinar, I'm going to drop a link on the group chat so you can proceed if you want a mock interview with one of our scholars. Also, I think there's still one more question. Please, speakers, my certification from a professional body is pending. I don't have it. Mounted pressure. If you don't have the certificate, if you have something that can show that, okay, you're working on it, present it. Okay.
And Chidima, they're asking
Yeah,
you
Chidima.
how can they connect with you?
Yeah. So for Chidima, I think, okay, let me just
I think you should
I'll
just
share
drop
a link
her
in the group
LinkedIn.
chat. So you
Yeah,
can just
my LinkedIn handle.
yeah.
Preferable.
And they also asked you, would they accept NECO results for the scholarship? And how would
Yes,
they do it?
I think they do actually. It's either your WAEC or your NICO. NICO is recognized.
Okay,
In
I
fact, they
have no
take two
knowledge about
settings
that.
as well. So if you have a
Okay.
combination of two results, it's accepted as well.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. Just bring all the results you have.
Right.
Don't mix everything.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to drop a link in the group chat. So once you go to that link, you can see the LinkedIn handles of all the speakers. Yeah, let me just drop if okay, let's copy. I mean it's oh my God. Okay.
Someone says here, I'm currently an MBA student. Can I mention this during my interview for a master's program?
I think we spoke about something like this
Like we
earlier,
did.
MBA,
but
masters.
Oh,
yeah, but once you are going for a master's, you don't need to tell them you are doing another master's. I think just
exactly.
Yes, true.
stick to what you are applying to.
Yes.
Okay, so unfortunately I can't add the link here because it's longer than YouTube's limit. But for people asking, you can search for me, Esther Okeje, on LinkedIn, and the first post or the second post you see there has the links to all the scholars that if there's anyone that you want to ask more questions or like interact it. Can you mention reading? Yes. So if you're doing your master's interview, and this is just based on last year, you can mention if you've read maybe the research paper of a lecturer in the school that you want to go to. It's of benefit for you to mention it in whatever question they ask you. It kind of shows, like it shows that you know what you're doing and where, like why you're going to that particular university. And it kind of makes them avoid asking you questions like, oh, why this university or why this country? Because they can already see that, okay, this person knows like who I want to work with and what I want to work on. Okay. My course of study at my BSc is education, computer science, and I only have, you can get other professional certificates, just memberships rather. You can search online. You can also ask on the group chat. I'm sure there are people that can
The
help
person
you
can join
with that.
CPN,
CPN.
yeah,
Okay.
and maybe
CPN.
ISPON, yeah.
Yeah, Eastbourne is true, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. And I know Eastbourne gives like fast. In
yeah, it's
fact, there's
fast. I think you can just do it online and
yeah, there's also even one international body. It's called ISACA. Once you pay for it, instantly you get it, although it's for some amount of money. Okay, can one switch to schools that is not a partnered university? No, you can only go to
Get the
PTDF.
get the scholarship
okay,
first.
okay.
Like
I think I can say something about this, but then you have to get the scholarship first, just like
exactly.
Tuesday say. If you get the scholarship,
You can
then you might go to a
ask
university
questions.
that is not on that list.
Yes.
But
And
if you
depends on
don't, please
how
don't,
you
don't
Not
yes,
even.
yes.
Uh,
Yeah. It depends on your conversation with them.
yeah.
Yes,
exactly.
yes, and how you go. But you have to first of all get the scholarship
First, you have to
for
get the scholarship.
scholarship, yeah, before asking any other question.
Yeah. So I think I'm trying to see if there's still any other question. Then
Sorry, Mr.
yeah.
Issa, do the accommodation, because for example, in the split side program, I don't have any person living in Kaduna. Would accommodation be provided?
Okay, though it's not time, and hopefully, I believe these questions are arising because you're also anticipating a split side,
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
The accommodation for PhD is befitting. Like
It's befitting.
Hmm.
it's
Wow.
yes, it's a befitting.
Uh-uh.
Okay, so some of this information, I think, um, maybe like I mentioned, after this, there are some videos of the CPASK that you can see.
Mm,
But for PhD scholars, your accommodation is a three-bedroom flat, fully furnished, but it's a joint flat. It's a three-bedroom bungalow that is fully furnished by PTDF, and you have three scholars per
Hmm.
per bungalow. So you have lights 247, you have internet, you have all the workstations that you need.
mm,
So yeah.
mm,
Hmm.
that's nice. Wow. Wow. Don't worry, we'll discuss further after I get to the interview.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully you get it and
Yeah, man.
we talk. Yeah.
Yes.
What's
Yeah.
this person saying? So I've put the link to the post that has the scholars, so you can go to that post and it will direct you to the LinkedIn pages of the scholars. Chiedozie, there's a question. Do we have to know the exact methodologies for an MSc? I don't think
No,
so.
no, no, no. All methodologies, research questions are
Exactly.
only limited to PhD applicants. So
Yeah.
you don't have to think, about those areas for your SOP.
Yeah.
Methodologies and research questions limited to PhD applicants only. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So also please before we go, can you guys like tell us maybe common mistakes you think people made like or make rather during the interview, especially for Mr. Issa and Saga that had like previous experiences.
I would like to go first so I
Okay.
can leave before
Yeah.
before Issa. So,
Yeah, no problem.
uh, well, I think I would say the biggest mistake you will make is to argue with them
Hmm.
during the interview.
Hmm.
So sometimes they would like to challenge what you are saying. I'm not saying you shouldn't argue at all, but the kind of argument I'm talking about is like you trying to be like you're challenging them, but rather try to argue with fact.
Hmm.
And you can argue with fact, but your expression looks like you're trying to challenge the person. And then once that starts, it's a problem. And I'm saying this because I know someone who told me he had an argument with them and he's very sure he's not going to be selected. And we had to laugh over it together. And honestly, he was not selected, but he said he had a very strong argument with them. And
Hmm.
then later he realized he was not supposed to, but it was just the tension that made him feel like, come on, you know your onions, argue about it. Yes, you can argue about sometimes they even want you to argue, but then argue with facts and like do it cordially. So I think this is what I would just say.
Okay. Mr. Isa?
Okay, for me, it's the same thing with what Mohammed said. One other thing is to be respectful, but don't allow it to make you a mediocre. When you get in, the normal pleasantries and all of that, then do not sit without them asking you to sit. Sometimes, and again, listen very well. In fact, that aspect of listening, it can be overemphasized. Listen very well, because sometimes you may be too overconfident, and like I mentioned, the Pandora's box, you may just go and get yourself into a lot of questions that are not intended. So just go straight to the point. When you are asked, try as much as possible not to beat around the bush. Go straight to the point with your answers. When they
Mr. Isa?
ask further questions, go on. Don't go into too much details that is not needed. And it would now portray you as somebody that is overconfident or something. Or you want to do ITK, as some of my students will say, I too know, right? So at the end of the day, the basic thing is be courteous, be respectful, and go straight to the point with your answers. And then just put it at the back of your mind that none of those people, because those people are either PhD holders or professors. So nobody is in competition with you. Nobody is there to fail you and all of that. Even when they tend to tease you or anything, just put yourself in a calm mood, and don't get G3 or get haywire with whatever it is. And the truth is, majority of them will want to make you at ease for you to be able to have good interaction. So whatever it is, don't go there late. Let me put this as well. Don't go there late as much as possible. If you are having an interview and you are in Abuja, in Kaduna, for example, and you have your interview in Abuja, I think the latest you should get to Abuja should be a day before. And as much as possible, rest very well. If your interview is by 8 o'clock, try as much as possible. Let's say if it is by 9 o'clock, try to be there by 7, at least 1 hour, 2 hours ahead of time, so that you're able to get there in time, and then you don't get to have pressure from getting there late. So, and like as it has been mentioned, as much as possible, go with all your documents. Don't go there and then you now start saying you forgot one document or the other at home. Cross-check, and check very well before you leave your home or your accommodation for the interview. Thank you.
Wow. Chidima, please, what do you think as an MSc applicant, like mistakes that people make? Chidima, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. As
Okay.
I think I've said already, it's
Yeah.
getting to the venue on time. It's really helped. Like, just for me, I got to the venue around Uniport. Uniport is actually a very big school, and I got there around 9. And my interview venue was meant to be in Faculty of Engineering, but I didn't know that they had like two. I think they had two faculty for engineering. So I went to the first place, and when I got there, they were like, "This is not the venue; it's the next place." So by the time I was able to navigate, that was like 30 minutes. I got there like 9:30. I still have like 30 minutes before my interview. So getting to your interview venue on time is actually one thing the applicant should adhere to. Then another thing I need to say is no matter how anxious or nervous you are, you only have one job that day, and which is to convince them that you're the best candidate for that scholarship. Like try to like answer the questions and make sure that you're as um Mohammed and Isaac said, don't go and try to like argue with them and all that. Just make sure that your answers are concise and accurate. And also try to maybe at the end of the day, if they ask you a particular question, just like me, one of the panelists asked me about a particular article. Have I gone through it? And I've not gone through the article. So at the end of the interview, they were like, do you have any question for them? And I was like, yeah, I want to know the name of the particular article you mentioned. And he gave me the name and told me the site to look for it. So maybe try, if they ask you if you have any question for them, like try to like ask them something. And I think lastly too is to we have said that before, make sure you dress smartly, not just that, dressed in something that you'll be very comfortable and confident in.
Yeah. Wow. So, Chidozie, so before we
Yes.
end.
Okay. So I would say it's just my parting word. This is a very competitive space. Um, that whatever the outcome of it, just know it's a very fair
Yeah.
playing ground, because you might have a very good score, but someone else might have a better score.
Mm.
Um, so you should just have that at the back of your mind.
Mm.
There are a lot of people that are as qualified as you are. But I would say you should put your best foot forward. Like I said earlier, be relaxed. When I mean relaxed, have this level of confidence. Don't over prepare. Just know your SOP for masters and your proposal for the PhD. Know them well. Know the exact thing to say and go straight to the point. Make sense on time, because it's a short time. You want to put your best foot forward. And also pay attention to the interviewers, because the interviewers themselves, they are professionals in their own rights. They are professors, they are doctors for the most of them. So they know what you are saying, or they have an idea of what you're saying. So respect them. Don't think of arguing with them. And results are being collated on the spot. So you might have 90%, but unfortunately, 12 other people might have um 98, 97, and 95%. So it's not that you didn't do well, it's just that based on the point-based system, people also perform better, even though you did well too. So have that at the back of your mind. Um yes, I think that will be all. And also reflect on all we've said, today. If you can watch this session again, watch it, pay attention to each of the scholars, all we said, take notes, and yeah, and dress well, like Chidima said, dress well, appear on time, come on time, be confident, and yeah, the world is your stage. The sky is your starting point, to say the least. Yeah, thank you very much, and see you at the top.
Yeah, see you at the top.
Yeah, Esther, you are muted. Yeah,
Oh, so sorry. Okay,
okay,
so I said for those interested in the mock interview, don't forget to message me on WhatsApp for master applicants. And best of luck to everyone. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the scholarship room. We'll be having more sessions like this to prepare you guys to get that scholarship. I'm sure everyone wants to leave this. Anyways, everyone wants to get a fully funded scholarship. So, like Chidozie said, rewatch the webinar if you have to. And who is asking? Message me on WhatsApp if you're interested in the master's mock interview. All right, guys. So we need to say thank you so much, our speakers, Edozie, Chidima, Saga, Isa. Thank you so much. We really extended beyond the time, and
yeah,
yeah, so sorry about that. Thank you so much. Your
you're
contribution
welcome.
was great. Thank you. All right. Bye.
All right,
Bye,
take care. Bye.
everyone.
Yeah,
See you at the talk.
yeah, see you.
Good luck, everyone.
Yeah. End.